What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the second installment of my off-season plan series. Now, my plan B for the Portland Trail Blazers off-season would be Jerami Grant. Plan A was Pascal Siakam. If you haven't watched that video yet, I dropped that yesterday, so make sure to go check it out. Maybe watch these in chronological order. And Plan B, I'm going to be talking about Jerami Grant as well as some trades that we can do to go out and get him. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're only 26 subscribers away from 5,000. We've been pushing towards that goal for a while now. Also subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming NBA draft stream. We're going to stream all 60 picks of the NBA draft complete with a fresh set of graphics. We're also going to drop some more videos. We've been dropping a ton of videos lately, and we're going to continue to do so as we head into the offseason. So without further ado, let's jump into Plan B. It's Jerami Grant. The Blazers need to go out and get a forward at least of his caliber, a guy that is a two-way player that can do some stuff off the dribble and play some good defense. That, I think, is Jerami Grant. Now, Jerami Grant wants to be in Detroit, so part of this is Dame hopefully recruiting Jerami Grant through the Olympics. Dame has been spending some time with him, so hopefully Dame is in his ear like, man, you would look really good in a Portland Trail Blazer uniform. People can make sick edits of you. Oh wait, they're doing it anyway. Shout out to Krish for the thumbnail. And yeah, hopefully Dame is able to convince him to be open to the idea of a trade to the Portland Trail Blazers, because Jerami Grant in Detroit's front office, they have a good rapport. It's going to be hard to go out and get Jerami Grant unless he's open to the idea of playing in a Blazer uniform. Now, if he's open to the idea of being a Blazer, then there are two main packages in which the Blazers could use to go out and get him. The first would be a trade that looks a little something like this. CJ McCollum and Portland's 2022 lottery protected first to Detroit. Detroit sends Mason Plumlee, Jerami Grant, the 37th overall pick, to the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, in this deal, Detroit would then likely trade CJ McCollum again and try and get back more picks for him, so this could end up being 3 first-round picks for Plumlee, Grant in the second, which I think is a pretty good haul. I highly expect Detroit to move on from CJ McCollum here. I just didn't want to try and start bringing in third teams into this whole picture and then turn it into a debate about whether or not the New York Knicks would trade the 19th and 21st overall picks for CJ McCollum in a 3-team trade. I didn't want to have that debate, so we just have a very simple trade here where the Blazers move off CJ, they get Jerami Grant, they get Mason Plumlee to be the backup center, who I think would be a good backup center, bring him back to Portland and providing the Blazers with good playmaking at the center position for 48 minutes a game with Nurkic and Plumlee. I really like that trade and Plumlee being thrown into that deal. Portland saves a little bit of money in that trade, even though they're getting back Grant and Plumlee. Grant's only making about $20 million next year. Plumlee's making about 8, while CJ's making almost 31, so the Blazers save a little bit of money in that deal. Now, the second trade is very intriguing for me. The second way we could get Jerami Grant and Mason Plumlee is if we trade out Derrick Jones Jr. after he hopefully opts into his player option and Robert Covington. Covington and Derrick Jones Jr. can barely match Grant and Plumlee. So the idea would be to send Robert Covington to a third team, such as the Boston Celtics, who would then send Detroit a future first-round pick and maybe a couple of seconds. If you could get 2 first-round picks out of that third team, out of a team like the Celtics or whoever wanted Robert Covington, then that would make this deal even easier. Portland sends its own future first to the Pistons, as well as a couple future seconds, and they get back Jerami Grant and Mason Plumlee. So Detroit ends up getting 2 future firsts, 4 future seconds for Jerami Grant and Mason Plumlee. They might need another future first, and if you're Portland, maybe you consider giving up a 2027 first-round pick, or maybe you consider giving up a Nasir Little to sweeten the pot here for the Pistons. The Pistons might need a little bit more value, but here's why I really like this trade. This could be a follow-up to a bigger CJ McCollum trade. Maybe you trade CJ for a Tobias Harris. Maybe you trade CJ and a 2022 first-round pick for Pascal Siakam in a multi-team deal. This is the way in which the Blazers could get Siakam and Jerami Grant, is by turning CJ McCollum into Siakam and then doing this sort of follow-up trade where they cash in Rocco and Derrick Jones Jr. as well as a future first and future seconds, hopefully into Jerami Grant and Mason Plumlee. This would be a home run offseason if the Blazers were able to get both their plan A and their plan B, which should be Siakam and Grant. You would end up having a starting lineup of Damian Lillard, Norman Powell, Jerami Grant, Pascal Siakam, and Jusuf Nurkic. Hopefully you still have one of Anthony Simons and Nasir Little to get this done. You'd also have Mason Plumlee as the backup center, so you'd have a pretty good rotation there. Now, you still have the taxpayer mid-level exception. That's $6 million that you could use in free agency, where you could go out and fill a bench role. The Blazers would end up being a contender next year if they could get both those things done. I'm just hopeful for one of them. Please, Olshey, just give me one of them. I'm not going to be mad if you don't get them both, but I like this follow-up trade because it would be not just trading CJ for Siakam and calling it an offseason and saying, that's good enough, we traded CJ, we got Siakam, we're good. No. It would be really swinging and going for it, and it would show Dame we're committed if we are able to pull off a Siakam trade and then somehow go out and get Jerami Grant. It's going to be extremely difficult, and Detroit would maybe need more value in that follow-up trade. You also might have to give up 2 future firsts in a Siakam trade with CJ, which makes it even harder to pull off that Detroit trade since you have a lot of future draft capital locked up in the Siakam trade itself. But I had multiple people ask me, how can they get Pascal Siakam and Jerami Grant? That's how they can get both of them. In the end, Jerami Grant might be the most gettable target for the Portland Trail Blazers, or he might be a guy that's not even on the market. I'm not too sure, but I would definitely do a CJ for Jerami Grant trade. I would definitely do that follow-up trade as well. You got to go out and get a guy who's a fringe all-star forward. And if that's Jerami Grant, that's Jerami Grant. He's on a good contract. He's only making $20 million next year, so it's not like the guy is overpaid. What's funny is when he signed that contract last offseason, people thought he was overpaid, including me, and now it turns out that that contract might be a little bit of a bargain. So it helps that you have a guy who Dame likes, who would be a perfect backup center for us, and Plumlee there that you could also throw into the deal. I think that makes things a little bit more palatable for the Portland Trail Blazers, and I think that makes it so that you might be able to make Dame a little bit happier if you can get Plumlee thrown on top of a Jerami Grant. So I think Detroit is in a really interesting position this offseason, being that they have the first overall pick, they have 3 second-round picks, they have a couple of vets that teams would want with Grant and Plumlee, and I'm hopeful that Dame is in Grant's ear right now saying, I want you in Portland. Let's sort out a trade. I know you like Detroit, but I think you'd be a great fit as my number 2. And then if Grant's the number 3 because you also traded for Siakam, then you know, hopefully he's cool with that. So with that, that wraps up my plan B for the Portland Trail Blazers offseason. Plan C will drop tomorrow. That's a name that might surprise some of you guys, so maybe try and guess it in the comment section below. I'm curious to see how many people can guess who Plan C is going to be. Let me know what you think about Jerami Grant. Let me know if you have any trade packages that I haven't said on this video. Just leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. I've enjoyed reading a lot of your comments lately. Just leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. As I said at the start of the video, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already so we can hit that milestone of 5,000 subscribers. And also leave a like on this video. It really helps out the channel. With that being said, I'm out of here. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.